like the
Really, y'all don't know this, y'all in danger, I'm a threat. I'm a gamble with your life, cause you know that it's a bet. It's a bet. You know I ain't letting up, my foot is on your neck. Take my word for it, it's a promise and a threat. Really, y'all don't know this, y'all in danger, I'm a threat. I'm a gamble with your life, cause you know that it's a bet. It's a bet. You know I ain't letting up, my foot is on your neck. Take my word for it, it's a promise and a threat. I ain't never really wanna flex my gifts, but I think it's my time, let me check my wrist. You can never dim my shine, I'ma keep on grinding till I reach the top. When it's just in my jeans and I ain't looking back, cause I'm feeling like Chris Bro. They can never slow me down, but they need to hate me, now I'm feeling like Chris. Rock with the team, cause you know that we winning, we with it, we going, we flowing again. I might just go by a Benz, I might just blow my advance, whoa. I did it all for the feeling, alive but I'm making a killing. I'm gonna break every ceiling, cause I need a million, but I don't need your money, you can pay me in respect. Cause once I do it big, what's to follow is a check. I need 100 bags, nothing more, nothing less. And the ops feel away, cause I'm next, I'm a threat. Oh yeah. Really, y'all don't know this, y'all in danger, I'm a threat. I'm a gamble with your life, cause you know that it's a bet. It's a bet. You know I ain't letting up, my foot is on your neck. Take my word for it, it's a promise and a threat. Really, y'all don't know this, y'all in danger, I'm a threat. It's a gamble with your life, cause you know that it's a bet. You know I ain't letting up, my foot is on your neck. Take my word for it, it's a promise and a threat. I ain't been feeling spectacular, flow so sick it's hazardous. Y'all still suck like Dracula. Zip this beat, let's back it up. And I don't care about critics cause they talk too much, and I know that I gotta keep on grinding, finding myself. I ain't gonna stop until I know I had enough. Mama, I made it, I know that they see me. I'm popping these bottles just like I'm a genie. I'm glad that you made me. It's all in my DNA. I'm about my chips like I'm working for Frito-Lay. And bet the bag on myself. I don't do this for my health. Every thread is a champion. Got the title, need a belt. I don't need your money, you can pay me in respect. Once I do it big, what's to follow is a check. I need 100 bags, nothing more, nothing less. And the ops feel away, cause I'm next, I'm a threat. Oh yeah. Really, y'all don't know this, y'all in danger.
Take your copium. It's time to move on from the Penn State toothless defeat to the Michigan Wolverines, 24-15. Penn State fires their offensive coordinator, Mike Yurcich. We'll obviously talk about that. All of your fan questions. I think we got like 50 this week. We will answer those questions, have some film breakdown, and figure out what's next for the Penn State Nittany Lions in just 1 second. Make sure you've liked the video and subscribed on YouTube. Make sure you subscribe wherever you listen to the podcast. Thank you very much. Take a sip here from the old Bud Light Seltzer Tangerine.
Bold choice. Looks like he loves it.
Not great. Not a fan of that one. Welcome into Hardcore Penn State Football. I'm Corey Lestochi. With me, as always, the great Shawn Kane. How are you doing today, Shawn?
You know, Corey, there's a lot less oomph in that intro, and it's how I'm feeling too. Yeah, it's a Monday, and it's not a victory Monday. So
no, it's not.
Feeling kind of blue.
You know, I feel kind of like a clown on Sunday morning because like my voice is a little hoarse. I think it's mostly back, but it's not all there. But I'm like sitting there on Sunday morning, I can barely talk, and I'm like, I really wasted my whole voice, my talent, if you will, just for that offense to go lay an egg.
Yeah, you really feel like walking out of the stadium after a loss, like am I like a clown? Like you kind of feel like, am I the dope here? Like you know, like I just feel like I'm looking for my dunce hat, because it's the same thing. Like it was one of those games you felt like you played in it because you're yelling so much. Everybody was standing the whole time. Atmosphere was good until the very end. There was some ugliness from some of the fans. But yeah, it was a bummer, guys. It was a bummer. And it was a bad loss.
I assume we're going to get pretty negative here pretty quickly, but I did want to give a shout out I thought that was one of the best environments we've ever had. I mean, just based off the statistics, Michigan ended up having to use 4 timeouts pre-snap, which is just insane. I think they had at least 2, if not 3 penalties, delay games or false starts. So the noise factor was there. The student section, although they were smidgen late, I'll give them a break because it was a noon kick and they probably all try to get at the same time. Um, the environment was fantastic and it made a difference. The defense did a pretty solid job. I thought they were a little leaky in the first half, but they really did a great job in the second half. They gave the offense multiple opportunities to win. I think they really lived off that energy that the crowd provided. So from that standpoint, the environment I thought was fantastic. My only complaint was that the flyover was as late as I've ever seen a flyover after a national anthem. And I don't know if that was the national anthem's fault or the flyover's fault, or I think it was technically the Navy. But otherwise, Shawn, I was really impressed. It was a beautiful day. It was a good day to beat Michigan, and it just didn't happen.
Yeah, we stood there awkwardly for like 10 seconds, like, all right, where's it at? And then I said to my buddy, maybe it's a drone and it's way up in the sky and we can't see it. But yeah, it was it was tough, you know. I agree with you. The defense again, like against Ohio State, not their A game, but you're playing against a great team, and they played well enough to win. So this is every game defense played well enough to win the game, and once again the offense couldn't do it. And there's a reason why Mike Yurcich is on the unemployment line today, and we're gonna get into Mike and what happened. But when Michigan didn't throw the ball outside of that interference call the whole second half.
Yeah.
That is such an insult to your offense because they're just saying, and I gotta give Sharon Moore some credit for this, for being like that gutsy to be like, these guys aren't gonna do anything. I don't think Drew Aller has it in him. I don't think these receivers have it in them. We're just gonna keep running the ball and running the ball and running the ball. And I do not want JJ McCarthy to make a mistake. So I'm going to take the ball out of his hands and we're still going to win the game. And they did. They didn't even need that last touchdown. They would have won the game 17-15 because we ran the dumbest 2-point conversion I've ever seen in my life. Also for no reason.
We'll get some 2-point conversions in a second.
Yeah, it was just not good. And it was embarrassing. No other way to put it. And
it felt like we were playing Iowa at the end there. Like just one of those games where Penn State had so many of those against Iowa for a while there, where it's just like, which offense is going to do enough to win the game? So Julius had a question if we're in denial about wanting Drew Aller to work out so bad, we blame everything but him. Well, we've been pretty, I think,
not us,
tougher on him. Welcome to the show, Julius.
Yes.
I think we've been tougher on Drew Aller than most people have. And I will actually say, I will show some plays today. Drew Aller did some good things. Like, obviously, there's things he needs to improve on moving forward. But the skill set's there. He has the tools. I think there's got, between the ears, there's some things that need to still be worked out. But he's got the skills to do it. Matt Taylor on YouTube says, halftime shows suck. That's a good point. Probably. I just don't like when they try to sing on top of the band. That has never worked. Actually, Michigan, I want to say it was Michigan 2016. The Michigan band tried to sing Michael Jackson on top of the band at halftime, and it just doesn't work well. Stop trying to sing and band at the same time.
Yeah, I actually missed the halftime show. I was getting water, and and the corridors were crowded. I mean, for noon games, they're always a little crowded, and when you have 110,000 people in them, yeah, it's not gonna be very fun. And the stadium got almost as loud as I ever heard it when Deni Dennis Sutton had that first sack. Like, the crowd went nuts. It was just such a release of energy, and it after losses in an environment like that, you almost feel like it was wasted because it was the goal is to get the win.
Matt Taylor says about the halftime show, it's fine they wanted to include the singers, but do it for Delaware, not for Michigan. Fair enough. Yeah. Lee has a comment here. He says, "Hey guys, did you see that the message board about post by Nate Bauer? I feel like that is not being talked about enough." Shawn and I actually were talking about that before the show.
Yeah.
Technically, that was behind a paywall, and so we're not going to specifically discuss what Lee is referring. Is it referring or inferring? I'm not sure. But referring. But we're not going to specifically mention that. But I'm sure we're going to get to some of those things during the episode today. So just hang tight.
But yes, we saw it.
Yes. But yes, we did see it. I guess to answer the question, yes. We did see it. All right,
great.
Shawn.
Yep.
I'm just gonna sit back and just hit the record button. Let me get it on your screen.
Oh
here.
boy.
And hold on a second. Let me get the all right, Shawn. And don't feel like you have to be perfect in this because we can cut it up any way you want. But I want to give you the mic here and just, voice your frustrations.
All right, airing grievances. So, yeah, what we saw on Saturday from the offense, it was embarrassing. And I tweeted in anger, but also I still feel this way. James Franklin should be the most embarrassed. Like, at some point, you have to be able to beat these teams. And this was the team to do it. In 2021, I wasn't even that mad after the Michigan and Ohio State games because those teams we weren't that good. So what's there to really get mad about? It always sucks losing, and you never enjoy a loss. But like this team, you really felt like this was the team. We have the 5-star quarterback that we've all been yearning for. We knew we'd have a great defense. We have that great defense. And this whole thing gets derailed because Drew Aller's not ready for the moment. These receivers are certainly not ready for the moment. And we don't even get through the whole season, and the offensive coordinator gets canned. So, again, though, it starts from the top. And I'm here to tell you, and I'm not calling for James Franklin to be fired right now. I think that's too much. But I'll say this. The next guy who should get fired for the offense is James Franklin. If he can't get this coordinator hire right, James Franklin needs to go. Because we've waited around too much. We've had only one offensive coordinator that was a real success here. Now, people say Ricky Ronnie got a head coaching job. He did, but does anybody really yearn for the Ricky Ronnie days? Again, 4th and 5 against Ohio State? I don't think so. So we've only had one offensive coordinator with real success, and then a bunch of guys that really didn't have any business being there. I mean, Mike Yurcich was a name, but it didn't work out. And that's still on James Franklin. He's the one hiring these people. Like, you could put the blame on the offensive coordinator, and the blame should be on the offensive coordinator, but James Franklin's the one that picks them. So he needs to get this right. And I don't know, we're going to talk about, does he meddle too much? Does he not get it enough? I don't know the answer to that. But what I do know is the offense needs to be fixed. And this guy that he's hiring next has to be the one that fixes it. And he has to fix Drew Aller.
So I think the biggest thing that James Franklin admitted to us this weekend was that he agrees with you, the fan, that the Michigan and Ohio State game are the most important games on the schedule. And by firing Mike Yurcich, basically for not being able to produce against those teams, he agrees with you guys as far as those are the most important games. The firing of Mike Yurcich, I think, is an admission of guilt as far as not getting the job done and needing to be better. 100% agree with Shawn, though. Like it, and I don't think Franklin would probably disagree with us. At the end of the day, it is on James Franklin to make the correct hires and to make the offense execute, whether or not Mike Yurcich also is supposed to do that. But I think there's an important part that Rich Scarcella said on his opinion piece today that really stood out to me, and that James Franklin used the word collaborative when talking about Ja'Juan Seider and Ty Howell as the co-offensive coordinators moving forward. To me, it seemed like there were things that James Franklin wanted done that they had planned to have done that then weren't executed by Mike Yurcich and the offense. And it seemed like that wasn't the first time that had happened. And it seemed like maybe there wasn't as much collaboration as possible. Now, if you know, you mentioned is Franklin meddling, not meddling? I really think it depends. Like, James Franklin really didn't meddle with Joe Moorhead's offense. Joe Moorhead came in, he wanted to do his thing. He wanted the keys to the car, and he got them. I think he maybe meddled more with Rainey. And to what some people have already mentioned on Twitter and whatnot, Mike Yurcich didn't necessarily have an identity when he got to Penn State. What Mike Yurcich was going to run when he got to Penn State wasn't abundantly clear because he ran sort of different things in other people's offenses at different places, say Oklahoma State or even Texas for that matter. And so I think he probably could have used more meddling. And it sounds like there was not a lot of collaboration, or maybe there was collaboration in the game plan itself, Shawn. But once it became to the actual execution, Yurcich kind of did his own thing because Franklin did not waste any time. I think somebody mentioned this in the presser today. Like, this was an earlier firing for Franklin than usual, and there's probably a couple different reasons to that. But the thing that Franklin said back was, if I know in my heart what I'm going to do, I'm not very good at pretending. So that to me was like, this was the final straw. You could even make the argument, Shawn, that Mike Yurcich is already fired after the Ohio State game, and the Michigan game was his final shot to redeem himself, and it didn't come to fruition. So yes, I agree. Like, James Franklin has to make it work, but I also think James Franklin needs to find an offensive coordinator in the same kind of realm of Joe Moorhead, where he's not afraid to run things, but he also has the experience and the identity and the conviction to plan and execute the offense.
Yeah, right. I'll say this though, and I thought it was also a little illuminating with what Franklin said today about the collaboration as well. So I kind of lost my train of thought, but bear with me. So Franklin, in all of the years, except the Jomo years, when things wouldn't go right, we tended to go and run the same 4 or 5 plays. Now, the offensive philosophies were different. Kirk Straka's offense was different than Ricky Ronnie's offense, and they were different than Mike Yurcich's. But the one common thread they all had was when the going got tough, they would just keep running the same 4 plays. And that's what we do. That's what we did this year. Like, that's what they did on Saturday. It was tight end in the flat, tight end in the flat, inside zone, outside zone. And that was the whole offense. Hitch route with DeAndre Lambert-Smith. And you have to think, is that Franklin telling them to go conservative? I don't know. But then Franklin goes and says that Mike Yurcich, reading between the lines a little bit, was basically doing all this by himself. And he wasn't really letting anybody else in. And then I kind of understand why he was fired mid-year. Because, yeah, mid-year fire has never, ever happened with James Franklin before, ever. So
it makes you wonder why the co-offensive coordinators, Ja'Juan Seider and Ty Howell, really even have that title. You know what I mean?
Yeah. And then we named 2 offensive coordinators, which, I mean, all right, there's going to be, I assume, 3 chefs in the kitchen because Franklin, well, no, Ty Howell has some experiences at OC, I believe.
Yeah.
But and on this level, like, Franklin is the one with the most OC experience, so I'm sure he's going to have more of a say in the game plan. But yeah, I'm very curious to see what I see, to see what's out there on Saturday and how much it's different.
Yeah, me too.
And then I wonder. I'm sorry.
No,
and
you're
then
good.
And then I wonder, like, what was his relationship like with Drew Aller? Because Drew looks kind of lost right now, and he doesn't have that swagger that you need from a quarterback. And I wonder if how much of it had to do with the relationship between him and Mike Yurcich. Because I just think about, again, the Dolphins, Tua under Brian Flores and Tua under Mike McDaniel, two completely different people. And I'm wondering if a new offensive coordinator can infuse some more confidence in him.
You could make that was the case even with when Joe Moorhead kind of stepped in there too. D.A. Adam says, I want to believe that Pat Kraft told James Franklin exactly what Shawn just said. James, I'll support you on this one, but the next one is on you. You know, he was asked something about that today during the press conference. And basically it was, did you make this decision or did Pat Kraft make this decision? And Franklin said that it was his decision, which I don't know if he would ever have said not, but he did say it was his decision, but that they are aligned from the top down, which, okay, two things you could get out of that. Number one, you could get that Pat Kraft maybe did influence that decision, or what I interpret that as is Pat Kraft was willing to spend the money to pay Yurcich's buyout to go get somebody else, and he believes in what Franklin's doing. There's kind of the two ways to look at it. But either way, I think that point that Shawn's making is correct. But it does seem like they are aligned. They are willing to buy out the rest of Yurcich's contract, which is not cheap, by the way. We're no longer in the world of Penn State not paying for assistant coaches. They are paying for good assistant coaches. And now they're going to be willing, basically, besides the Jimbo Fisher replacement at A&M, going to have their dibs at whoever they want. They're one of the first ones to kind of get rid of their coach. So they're going to have kind of cream of the crop choice of who they want to go after. And it seems like they have the support from the athletic director.
Maybe we'll get Jimbo up here.
I didn't even think about that one.
Half kidding, but I will say I don't think he's had a good offense since Jameis, and he kind of got fired because his offense sucked at A&M. But
would you take Jimbo over Dan Mullen? I think I'd rather run with James Franklin as calling plays than have Jimbo or Dan Mullen.
Dan Mullen was an offensive coordinator on a national championship team.
No, Dan Mullen, the offensive coordinator, is fine. Dan Mullen, the person, is not fine.
Well, that's true. He is a
I couldn't handle it.
Douche, but anyway. And then you have to, obviously we're going to get into some potential names, but I'll ask you, Cory, like, what are you looking for in this new offensive coordinator? Is there anything specific you're looking for? Because like I'm kind of looking for a new philosophy. Like, I think they need to go more the pro style approach. And I know a lot of Penn State fans, we love recycled names at Penn State. We love to say Jomo, Joe Brady, Bill O'Brien, and nothing against any of those guys, but I kind of think we need something new. What are you looking for?
I really don't care. As far as like style goes, I really think it's more important that they have a track record of developing quarterbacks. I think it's important that they have a history of calling plays, specifically with an identity that they are accustomed to, not running someone else's offense, but running their offense and what they believe in. Those are my two most important things. Like, you need to be able to drive the boat without having the captain there. And what I mean by that is you need to be able to own the system without having James Franklin look over you. And I think that's when James Franklin flourishes the most, when he doesn't have to really dive deep into helping the offense or helping the defense, and he can play that CEO style. That's when he's at his best from a game management perspective and everything else. And so those are my important things. The pro style thing, like, look, like, could Drew Aller be better in a pro style offense? Yeah, maybe. Could the running game potentially be better in a pro style offense? Yeah, maybe. But we'll show some plays today. I do think the part that Yurcich struggled with wasn't necessarily the specific plays or the style of plays. It was getting his guys to execute and run those plays successfully. And it just didn't seem like that was happening, whether or not they were going to be running pro style or if they're going to run spread. So we have a question later on about dual threat and pro style and all that. Like, look, I thought Drew Aller actually showed some wiggle and showed that he could run that offense. But I also think they maybe they could probably throw in some more under center stuff. I thought they ran more under center stuff with Sean Clifford last year than this year, which kind of puzzles me.
Yeah, there were games that we really went away from that. My dad just texted me, and he's right. Galen and J-Pow were the last two co-coordinators. So, a little something to think about with the Sider-Howell combination. But yeah, and the thing is, guys, anything could work, theoretically. A good offensive coordinator, and every coach says this, they run the system that fits what they have. And you're not going to run Drew Aller like Lamar Jackson. You're not going to ask Lamar Jackson to be Tom Brady. So every good offensive coordinator doesn't try to fit a square into a circle. So the most important thing is just getting an offensive coordinator that fits and adapts to what they have. Like I do have some like worry about how would Drew look in an offense like Joe Moorhead's. And then, like, if we were to go the Moorhead route, there are some flaws with Joe Moorhead that Penn State fans don't really think about. And I don't know if with the talent we have right now, we'd really want what he brings.
It wouldn't go under center at all. That's for sure.
That's what I mean.
Yeah, look, I mean, like I said, there's benefits to being in those offenses. There's also things that, you're not necessarily stressing the defense the same way that you are in a more spread option attack. It's just picking what you want, right? And again, I think they have the tight ends and the quarterback to run a pro style offense where you could line up, run the ball from under center, maybe get a little bit different schemes as far as running stretches and running different counters and whatnot. And then having Drew Aller come off of a bootleg or have a true conventional 3-step, 5-step drop. I think there's benefits to it. But I really don't really care. And honestly, I don't know how much Franklin really would be willing to do that either. And so I don't know if he's even going to look that way. The closest
it's not something
thing
he's ever run. Yeah.
The closest thing I think you would see to that is what you saw with Kirk Shiraka. Like, that was the most like urban pro style offense I think you'll ever see under James Franklin.
Yeah, I think James Franklin hated it. And that's why Kirk Shiraka got canned.
Do you think they thought? But see, I always just went with like they weren't going to fire Shiraka after that first year.
Yeah.
If Mike Yurcich wasn't available, it very much seemed like they were going to like at least give him another shot, especially since COVID. But Mike Yurcich was there, and they ran with it. Kirk Shiraka also had like some awful quarterback play compared to, I mean, just that was before Sean Clifford got a lot better. So.
Josh McDaniels is available.
So
I don't know if he'd coach in college, but
my question, I guess, to you, Shawn, is too, like, again, how much do you put on the coordinator and how much do you put on the players?
Yeah.
Like, again, Mike Yurcich called plenty good plays in his last 2 years. where I just don't sit here and say he completely forgot how to run plays. I do subscribe to the not getting Drew Aller comfortable, not getting him in a rhythm, etc. And if he was going against what James Franklin and them had planned for, like that's the easiest way to get fired if you're not executing or doing what your boss says. I don't care what job you're in. But I guess my question is, what point do you say, look, the offensive coordinator from a strictly game plan perspective is failing versus the players just aren't executing? I understand it's their job to make them also execute and plan and prepare and get them up to speed and develop them. But from just a play calling / execution standpoint, how much do you blame Yurcich?
Well, I mean, ultimately, yeah, the buck stops. Well, buck stops Franklin, but Mike Yurcich is the head coach of the offense. So the buck does stop with him, and that's why I thought there needed to be a change. I didn't I didn't necessarily need it to happen right now, but I think when you're failing as they did to do anything against really the only two good teams you play all season, yeah, ultimately it does fall on him. Now, were there times that the players didn't execute? Yeah. Yeah. Like Drew Aller fell short in both games. The wide receivers fell short in both games. I thought the running game wasn't bad on Saturday, but we could have gotten more out of him. We're going to have some stuff on film that we're going to see. And I thought the offensive line was all right on Saturday. Not great, but I thought they were all right. But ultimately, there's so much that goes into being an offensive coordinator. It's more than just making plays. It's coming up with the game plan. It's getting the guys comfortable enough with that game plan to succeed. And Mike Yurcich just wasn't getting the job done. So ultimately it falls on him, but is it on everybody? Yeah. I think JFK once said, victory has 1,000 fathers and defeat is an orphan. And I think that's very true.
Yeah, and some people throwing a lot of stuff in the chat here. Just talking a lot about Ryan here on YouTube mentions that Jomo had a lot of talent to work with, at least in a skill position, and that might have made up for some things. Some people were talking about, they also Yurcich didn't have a lot working around him as far as in the receiving department. We're going to talk about that a little bit more. Shawn, I think it's time. Before we get to the fan questions, I want to talk to you about 2-point conversions. So
let's do it.
I'm going to lay out my opinions on them, and then I'll let you go. So Penn State went for 2-point conversions on Saturday. The first one right before the end of the half, they were down 9-14 at the time. They decided to go for 2. They ran kind of like a bunch set, really tight set, went play action. They actually tried to, again, do a little bit of a rub route. They didn't get the rub route as good as they did against Maryland. Dante Cephas wasn't really open, incomplete, whatever. Don't mind the decision to go for the 2-point conversion from the standpoint of your offense hasn't really done very much and probably isn't going to do much. You might not even have a chance to score a 2-point conversion later on. You might just be kicking a field goal in the second half to tie it. Don't mind the decision. Didn't necessarily love the play call, but whatever at this point. I in a normal situation, I understand not chasing the points, but given that your offense struggling so much, I was okay with it to go for it then and there on that one. The second one, the end of the game, a lot of people had already started leaving anyway. They score. They're at 9 points at the moment. They can either kick the PAT and go down 8, or they can go for 2 and make it a 7-point game. They're going to need the 2-point conversion at some point anyway. There's really 2 trains of thought. The one is extend the game. You just kick the PAT. You go down 8. You put the pressure on Michigan. I tend to agree with that more if you actually have a chance to like kick the ball deep and have timeouts to play with. When you're already in the onside kick situation where it's just going to come down to an onside kick anyway, I think I don't really care when you do it. I think that it was kind of futile at that point because it's an onside kick anyway, whatever. If you have a chance to actually put pressure on their offense to make a first down, I think you kick the PAT and you keep the game going, keep the pressure on. But in that situation, it didn't matter. But I want to say this, Shawn, because Franklin brought up analytics after the game. And I agree. I like the analytics side of things, to go for it when you should go for it, and vice versa, especially on fourth down. However, I'm assuming these analytics are based off of the percentage that you're going to convert a 2-point conversion 43% of the time. That's what the average is to convert a 2-point conversion. But Penn State since 2021 is 2 for 10 on 2-point conversions, which is 23% less than that average. So
Big J journalism.
Yeah. So you're not converting at the same rate as which maybe the analytics are telling you to go for it in those situations. So I don't really care about these specific decisions, but moving forward, when the analytics are telling you, yes, you should go for 2 here. Okay, yes, if you're converting at 43% a clip, maybe you should. But if you're converting at 20% a clip, maybe you shouldn't, because now all of a sudden the analytics might not be working with you. So I think analytics are fine if you're accounting for how you're performing on those exact same metrics.
That's the fun with analytics, right? Because you can look at numbers and it could tell you, okay, if you do like analytics tell you always go for 2, never punt. Fine. If you were to run your whole team like that, you'd be fired by the end of by maybe the end of like the 8th game, because there are times, and analytics tell you this, 52% of the time you're going to get the first down. Okay, what about the other 48? Like 48%, that's a huge number, And then, so it's about having feel and analytics. I'm not a caveman. I don't say ignore analytics. They're a useful thing to consider, but you have to keep them in perspective. Yeah. So the first one I understood. You're trying to make it a field goal game. And if Michigan kicks a field goal, you're 8 points down. Odds are you're going to hit one of them. We did not hit either. But that's what the odds tell you. If you could hold them at 17, if they kick a field goal, get to 17, you could catch them. Second one to me made no sense at all. Reason it made no sense at all is when you're the coach, you're trying to keep your team in the game. That's your ultimate goal. And I understand we were kind of defeated already, but you never know. Like, you could conceivably recover an onside kick. Maybe it goes through a guy's hands. Maybe Falcons hits it just right. It could happen. It's rare, but I'd rather rare than no chance at all. And yeah, you could go down 7, maybe. But then if you miss, you're entirely out of the game and you have no chance at all. So I didn't like the second 2-point conversion whatsoever. Like I said, didn't mind the first one. Second one to me made no sense.
I want to go back to something you said at the beginning there. I don't know if I'm going to be able to remember it now, because I thought it was a really good point that you had. I wanted to reiterate or mention again, but I don't know if it's going to come back to me. Oh, now I did remember. You mentioned the feel thing. I think sometimes Franklin does show the ability to feel those out. Like, again, just like happened in Ohio State game, they were going to go for it on 4th and short. And this time, instead of the personnel that should have happened in Ohio State, this time Dante Cephas didn't know where to go. And they end up having to use a timeout. And that is a feel thing. Analytics hasn't changed. Analytics would say still go for it. He's like, lost the chance, lost the momentum. Let's punt it away. They're going to be able to come out more prepared now. We kind of lost the flow, and he punts it. So that is a time where, yeah, I think he did feel it correctly. Although you could argue that Dante Cephas shouldn't be out there if he didn't know the play. But that's that's just the frustrating aspect of it all.
And I mean, it kind of should, like, this is twice in your two biggest games that James Franklin called a timeout to punt.
Yeah.
Now, I thought punting was definitely the right call there because you're giving Michigan outstanding field position. They're going to put the game away if you turn it over there. So, but like, you have to be more decisive on that. And if it wasn't for Dante Cephas having yet another brain fart, yeah, then we probably run a play in all likelihood, and we're not going to pick up the first down. Shout out to Caden Saunders for actually picking up a first down on a fourth down. But
Yeah,
those are rare.
I love, God, the 3rd and 5 where they ran it up the gut and lost a yard was like identical to what they did against Ohio State in that same situation, like that maroon zone. And Michigan was ready for it. And then they put up a 4th and 6. And then they throw it to Caden Saunders, and you're like, oh, why didn't they just do that on 3rd and 5?
Yeah.
All right. I wanted to make sure we talked about the 2-point conversions. I don't think we had a question on that, so I wanted to, surprisingly, mention that before we get to it. All right, fan question time. Let's see if I can do these in the order I want to do them in. All right. So I want to start with this one. I think I did put these in order. And we're doing fan questions earlier because I think it fit the kind of mood of the show. This question is from ASNL PSU. Your reaction to this argument: Aller's fumble, the 25 yards of blocking the back on the punt, the intentional grounding penalty after Michigan had the punt, had much more to do with the loss than anything else. Set emotions and years of frustration aside, games come down to a few plays, and our players didn't make them.
I mean, hey, there are a lot of reasons why you lose a game. The fumble is probably an underrated part of it because we're moving the ball. He picked up the first down. That was a 3rd and 3 or 3rd and 4. Picks up the first down, and for the first time all year, he gets careless carrying the ball, and it's stripped. So it was a big play. And the block at the back, yeah, I didn't like the penalty either. I thought the guy was clearly blocked into. And then we had an actual time where there's a block in the back, and that got called. Not going to say the referees were out, but the referees were out. Also, the phantom interference that probably should have been offensive interference, but officiating's not why we lost. And yeah, the intentional, I actually forgot about the intentional grounding. I think I tried to block it out of my memory. But yeah, your point's taken. There are about 7 plays in a game that decide it, and it felt like we didn't make any of them. So yeah, that's part of why we lose. But how come we never make them against Michigan and Ohio State? At least in the past 3 years. Why? Why is it never us making these plays?
Yeah, I would extend this more. Like, I think that those things are correct. And by the way, DA Adam is in the chat who asked this question. I would extend that to the other plays too, right? Like, there was at least 3 third downs and long that Michigan picked up that were backbreakers. And some of them, yes, good design by Michigan and running the QB sweep versus the blitz, running the slot screen against the blitz. But others, the touchdown run, for example, by Donovan Edwards was not a great play call. It was stopped, and Adisa Isaac just didn't squeeze. And that's just what it is, right? Like, they made the plays, and Penn State did not. And that's the same thing that happens in the Ohio State game. That they have more playmakers. They 100% have more playmakers. I think we have another question about that, so I want to hold off on it too much. But at the end of the day, Shawn, they did make more plays than Penn State, whether you want to talk offense or even defensively. Like, Penn State wasn't able to force Michigan into a mistake either, even though they played really good.
Yeah, no turnovers again. You win the turnover battle, you win a lot of games. Yeah, I mean, but it's just the point that we never make those plays. We never make winning plays. And yeah, part of that is on the players. A huge part of it's on the players. But again, ultimately, goes back to the coaches. Like, yeah, we have to start making them.
Let me ask this question because it kind of goes into this perfectly. This is from Swimmer Dad. Do you think it's a play calling strategy issue in big games, or do we still simply not have comparable talent? Or are the coaches evaluating talent poorly, leaving guys in who aren't producing and not working in others? So I think, there's some play calling issues as well. And that's, well, clearly, and James Franklin feels that way because he fired his offensive coordinator. And I shouldn't be laughing at that. I really do hope Mike Yurcich lands somewhere, but I'm just laughing at the fact of this question. The comparable talent thing to me, Shawn, I said this multiple times in the last week or two. Yes, Penn State is very close, and they are much closer than Michigan, but they aren't necessarily there, especially offensive weapon-wise, and playmaking-wise, when it's all said and done. Yes, Katron Allen made some good plays, but Donovan Edwards, Blake Corum, they made more plays than our running backs did. Their quarterback made just a couple more plays than our quarterback did. And that was kind of the difference on just that end. And then obviously defensively, they made some more game-changing plays on their side. But I don't know how you can scout that. I don't know how that actually happens, right? Because Penn State has the most talent they've ever had, and that's going to get them an opportunity to compete in these games, but it's not going to guarantee that they win them. And you got to hope that you're on the right side of the splash plays. I don't think you can predict them all the time. You can try to set yourself up in a position where they should occur more, but at the end of the day, your guys have to be dudes. And right now they're not being dudes. And Penn State had dudes that weren't even supposed to be dudes before. So
yeah. So it's kind of a chicken and egg thing, I guess. What came first, the poor performance on the field or the coach's play calling blunders? And it's probably both. And again, there's a reason why Mike Yurcich was canned. I have a feeling there are going to be some players that don't come back next year, not necessarily because they're going to the NFL draft either. So we'll just keep it like that. And part of it's a culture thing. Why are they always making the plays that we don't? And is there a mental toughness problem in the program? That I don't know. And our buddy Mike Higgins always he always has that quote from Remember the Titans: "Attitude reflects leadership." And I don't think there's a ton of leadership on this team. I don't see it. I don't see it on game days when things are going bad. They just go bad, and it's like they don't rally to anybody. So, and yeah, part of that's on the coach.
One of our biggest question marks going into the season back in January was leadership. And offensively, especially, I think maybe that's missing.
Yeah, I mean, I guess Theo Johnson, but he's really the only one that seems to be like that guy to lift guys up or to get in guys' faces. And I just don't see it from the other guys. I mean, I certainly don't see it from Drew Aller right now, and he's a sophomore, to be fair to him. But I'm not seeing it, and that's not great. Also, does it seem like we're very confused pre-snap, all the time? Cliff was so good pre-snap, and you always felt like, there was always a lot of running around before, but you always felt like it was organized chaos, and he knew exactly what we were doing. I just don't get that same feeling from this offense, ever. There just seems to be a lot of confusion constantly.
I don't know if I want to go down the whole road of telling everybody I was right for the millionth time on Sean Clifford, but yeah.
And that was something we were totally in line with. That's part of why, that's a big reason why I wanted Cliff to start last year.
Yeah.
Because sophomore Drew, I mean, I could like imagine what freshman Drew would be like.
Right. I mean, just to give you an idea of one example of that 2nd and 1, they, go hard count. The DB flinches like he's going to blitz. And so then Drew audibles to that bubble stream to Malik Mega, and they lose a yard. And it was a play call. It was a run, and he audibled to that. And you just wonder, like, Sean Clifford probably doesn't get fooled by that fake flinching blitz, or you know what I mean. It probably doesn't fall for something like that, or he doesn't care because it's 2nd and 1. Even if that DB blitzes, I'm trusting my 5-star running back to get 1 yard before that guy gets to me, and it doesn't really matter. So just those little things, right?
Yeah, definitely. Those little things add up.
Yeah, because then you're stuck in a 3rd and 2 instead of a first down. I don't want to get to that one next. Let's go to 2 questions here from Randy Seeley. Before I start, D.A. Adam goes, "Go down the hole. You were both right. Embrace it."
Yay us.
Matt Giles, I hope I'm saying that right, says Aller doesn't seem like the type of rah-rah leader to get in your face and motivate guys. Yeah, but he did flex when he scored that touchdown. I thought we were going to see some of it. I was like, okay, I didn't know he was a flexing type when he scored, but I thought I don't know, he's young. Like, I agree with that. Like, I don't think he's ever going to be a Trace McSorley, but I think there's still opportunity for him to get some I don't know what the right word is, Sean.
Swagger.
Yeah.
Yeah, and maybe the right coach could do that for him. The right OC, I should say.
Yeah. Anyway, this question from Randy Seeley. It's hard to put that game in the rearview mirror, but we still have 2 winnable regular season games left to play. How will we be better offensively moving forward? Sean, you were kind of hinting at this question. Like, what are we going to see? I'm assuming we're like, here's the thing, Sean. Like, if they come out and they get Drew Aller in rhythm and they look fantastic, and we're assuming that's going to be heavily influenced by James Franklin, does that not tell you that Franklin wasn't getting, maybe he was trying to medal, but he wasn't able to medal as much as he wanted to?
And that would be us, right? Like, we look completely different against Rutgers and Michigan State. We're like, we had the wrong offensive coordinator. It should have been.
And then all those people would have to say, I wish Franklin would have medaled more. Did you hear that?
No, I disconnected my.
I said, imagine if all those people that were calling for Franklin's head would have to admit that they wish that Franklin would have medaled more in the offense.
I know. Yeah, they're like, oh, Franklin's an offensive genius, actually. Yeah, like that would be our luck. And we go and roll Rutgers and Michigan State. To answer your question, I have no idea. I have no idea how this offense is going to look. I mean, get the ball to your tight ends over the middle. I think that's where they're at their best. Not like bubble screens to the tight ends who are the slowest guys on the field. I like bubble screens, but with Kadri Leverett-Smith and Cephas and guys that have some speed, like, get them involved over the middle. Ty Howell's the new co-offensive coordinator. Maybe that happens. Get Nick Singleton out in space. Like, there were another play where we flexed out of the T formation. I thought that should have been Nick Singleton going to the outside, not Katron Allen. So maybe get Singleton doing what he feels more comfortable doing. But yeah, I think that's what's fixable right now. It's hard to fix Drew Aller in just 2 games, so I don't think that's going to happen, or these receivers. But those are some little things that I think could make a difference.
I think, Randy, you'll see them simplify things for the receivers. I think you'll see a more simplified but effective route tree. Because again, what's James Franklin's kind of background? Yes, he coached plays, but he's also the receivers coach. I think they're gonna kind of go back to the basics of the receivers and say, look, we need you to run a bubble, we need you to run a dig, we need you to run an out, we need you to run a post and a corner, and obviously a go. And we're not gonna, make you guys have to decide things. No option routes, nothing like that. We're going to just look for our spots, and we're going to keep it simple for Drew Aller. That'd be my guess.
Yeah. Yeah. Franklin kind of talked about that today. Like, things weren't simple enough, and they didn't feel like they did a good enough, Yurcich did a good enough job getting into a rhythm. Franklin did throw him under the bus after the press conference too, at the Saturday press conference, saying that they didn't do that they got to do a better job getting Allard into the rhythm. So even after hearing that, I was like, that's weird. He usually doesn't do that.
Yeah. Right. Other question from Randy Seeley. The mood of the team seems pretty sour right now. How does the reaction of our fan base, in person and social media, affect recruiting, retention of players, leaving via the portal, and even playing in the bowl game, which could still be a New Year's Six game? I'll let you go first.
I don't think a ton. And there were some things on Saturday that I didn't like from the fans. Don't throw stuff on the field. First off, depending on what you're throwing, you could hurt someone. Secondly, it's trashy. Don't do that. But yeah, there were boos, and I understood the boos. I didn't partake because I know it could be misinterpreted. They're booing James Franklin, Mike Yurcich. That's who they were booing. A majority of them, at least. So could the fans force a player out? I don't think so. I think players transfer out for a myriad of reasons. They transfer out because, for number one reason, is they're not getting playing time. These days, NIL is a reason. They transfer out. Sometimes they don't get along well with their coach. Transfer out because their coach leaves. So there are a lot of reasons why they leave, and why they end up different places with recruiting. I don't think fans have a huge part. And I would argue Penn State fans, with Penn State fans, are a net positive all day long. Because there are some fan bases, and this could be hard to believe, especially reading social media the last few days, that are way rougher than Penn State fans are. Like, you go down south, it's a religion down there. And it's not really a religion here. We have passionate fans, but it's not like that.
Someone threw a beer can onto the field, and it like hit onto the field almost to the numbers, and like was spraying all over the place. The official had to pick it up, and it was still spraying at them when they were throwing it off. But yeah, I agree with everything you said there. And it was a good environment. Like, there's a lot of recruits there on Saturday. Still a really good environment. I also, hate to say it, but usually when you fire a coordinator, like, there's some optimism that is reinstated following a firing like that, because you're optimistic of the unknown. You don't know what to expect. So I don't know, maybe it's just me, but I already feel a little bit better because there's already been some solution, whether that is going to be the right one or not, but there's already been, some resolution to what happened on Saturday.
Yeah, I didn't have to come here and ask for Mike Yurcich to be fired. So that was nice.
This is just a general question, Shawn, from some rando. That's literally his name, by the way, if you're just listening on the podcast. Do you think this earlier coaching change will be the new norm due to the transfer portal landscape? Are schools trying to name the next guy before players can jump ship? Seems hard to move people mid-season. So I don't think so. To give you an idea, like, they fired John Donovan like the day after the Michigan State game. So you're only talking like an additional week or two than usual. I really believe Franklin when he said that if he had his mind made up, there was no reason to really wait and he wasn't going to be able to fake it. Like I believe him when he said that. I do think this is the appropriate time to do it though, from basically now until right after the season ends, if you're not going to the Big Ten championship, because early signing period, you want to have a new guy in before then, if you can. He might not have to be on campus yet. Maybe he's in the playoff or he wants to finish out whatever with his current team. That's fine, but if you at least have the name, you can begin to recruit with that name. So that's the first part. The second thing is what Franklin mentioned and what he said he'd prefer to do, if possible, is have that coordinator be a part of the team by their bowl game. And so they can evaluate just like Manny Diaz did. And he kind of has a leg up going into the spring, knowing kind of the strengths and the weaknesses. I think that's the biggest benefit, more than necessarily just the transfer portal or anything else. It's the things I just outlined.
Yeah, and I think Franklin has names in mind. He said it. So you're going to make back channels. You're going to talk to agents. You're going to text people. So he's already wheeling and dealing. No doubt about it. He's probably doing it right now after practice. So as far as the transfer portal, I mean, perhaps. But like Cory said, it's a lot more about getting the guy you want and not waiting around. And yeah, having him for the bowl game, and he could be with you during all the bowl practices. When did Pry take the Virginia Tech job?
Don't know off the top of my head.
Yeah, I don't either. I don't know if
Probably,
he was gone by signing day or not.
I think he was.
Yeah. So I'm sure they're trying to get him here for signing day, whoever it is.
Let me see here. We got. Okay, let's go this question next. So this question is from Dorito Bandit, longtime listener to the show. Thank you, Dorito. It's been pretty evident that the quarterback and wide receivers have not been on the same page much of the time. Is this a product of bad coaching by a new wide receivers coach, Hagens, or is this a problem that former wide receivers coach Stubblefield created and we just didn't realize it because of the guys like Jahan Dotson making up for it? First of all, thank you for the question. Corey Geiger, who will be on the show Wednesday night, by the way.
I did not know that.
Yeah, I forgot to tell you that. My bad.
Awesome. Love Corey.
Had a question for a coach today specifically about whether or not the receivers are really the reason for the offense's lack of production. Franklin didn't agree with what his assessment was, but acknowledged that like they're not where they need to be. Franklin isn't going to throw the receivers all under the bus either. But Shawn, we talked about this before the show started. I think we're agreement here. Marcus Hagens, I think, came into a worse situation than we realized. Maybe even Stubblefield should have been fired sooner than he was. And really, Hagens is trying to just do patchwork right now. There's a lot of things out there. People have already posted some of the stuff in the comments about where those receivers are as from a developmental standpoint and from a leadership standpoint. But the fact is in the pudding. The proof is in the pudding. They have not produced. And there was multiple guys there that we thought were really going to do some good things, and they haven't. And you have to wonder, okay, yeah, did Mike Yurcich not give them the football in certain ways? Maybe. But also, what were they doing to put themselves in the best position to succeed, and have they done that? And I don't think that's the case.
Yeah, it's a good question. I don't think you fire Marquise Hagens right now. Because then you're through 3 wide receivers coaches in less than a year. So I don't think that makes a ton of sense. I think you only do that if something drastic happened. The receiver room is not in a good spot. Taylor Stubblefield did not recruit it well, and that's why he was fired. Now, I would argue Taylor Stubblefield as a coach on the field actually wasn't bad. He developed Jahan Dotson. He developed Parker Washington. I wouldn't say he developed Mitch Tinsley, but Mitch Tinsley played well with them. He developed Keandre Lambert-Smith. So I don't really put it much on Hagans. The problem is you have a number one receiver, Keandre Lambert-Smith, who's not a number one. He has shown that over and over again. If you get a little physical with him, he disappears. He had 1 catch for 6 yards on Saturday. Not enough. Not nearly enough when you have to help out your young quarterback. Dante Cephas, we all know the issues with him. He had the Maryland game. That was really the only high we've seen. Got a little unlucky with losing Harrison Wallace. And the rest of them are just, I haven't seen much of anything from any of them. Caden Saunders, I think, has a chance to be something. But the room as a whole needs a lot of work. And thankfully, we have good receivers coming in this recruiting class. And I think they have, at least some of them have an excellent chance to play next season.
I mean, how do you not go into the spring? You don't know who's going to leave or who's going to go, but how do you not go into the spring with an open competition, right? Like, assuming KLS leaves, maybe Trey Wallace has a slight edge on some people, but otherwise, like, how does it not just completely open to whoever wants to make some plays? So, and again, Marcus Hagans is new. He doesn't know anybody anything. He didn't recruit any of those guys. So we'll kind of see what happens there. But I agree. I am not. I think Marcus Hagans is actually. You can quote me on this on November 13th, 2023. I think Marcus Hagans is going to be a really good hire for Penn State. Just hasn't had a chance yet.
Yeah, I still have a lot of faith in Marquise Hagans as well. But yeah, right. We don't call for people to be fired willy-nilly.
We're going to go to this question, and then we have more three offensive coordinator-ish questions. So, Shawn, this is kind of what we were talking about earlier. This is from Devin. Can Penn State win a Big Ten title with Drew Aller at quarterback? Has the game evolved to a point where you need more of a dual threat option to help take the pressure off your offensive line or to create more?
Well, we can't win with the 2023 version of Drew Aller, that's for sure. Do I think he can develop, though? Yeah. He has all the talent in the world. It's not a talent question with Drew. Your point about needing mobility, I agree with that. But you don't need to be Lamar Jackson. But he could be Trevor Lawrence. He could be Joe Burrow, where it's 3rd and 7, he has to go pick up 7 yards. Drew Aller could do it. He showed he could do it. So I think he's mobile enough. But I do understand your point about it is a lot more pressure on the offensive line. This like you think about the 2016 to 2018 offensive lines, they were definitely helped by having Trace McSorley back there because he got out of a lot of jams. That's not who Drew is, but I do think if you put a good offensive line in front of him, he'll be fine. And the thing is, we have one this year, and it didn't work.
I thought he showed enough wiggle in the Maryland and in the Michigan game to do those things that I believe Devin's mentioning here. I think he had shown enough from a mobility standpoint. He was able to avoid a couple players, throw downfield, convert on 3rd down. He caught a pass out of the backfield. So I think he has enough athletic ability to do that and to be good enough from the athletic perspective to be mobile enough to win big games. And I think we've seen more of that as the year has progressed. So, yes, I think it's possible, but there's obviously things he needs to improve on. Like, he's not going to be a true read option quarterback, and therefore he is going to need to be more consistent with his 5 and outs, his 8 and outs, his digs. He missed a couple of them. Even the one of Caden Saunders over the middle on the long crossing route wasn't a great throw. There's an out route to KLS that technically KLS dropped. Wrong shoulder. Like those are the small little things that you got to be consistent with. And if I'm a play caller and my my quarterback can't hit the out route, I feel a little bit like I have my one hand tied behind my back because I don't really have all the entire field to work with all of a sudden. So those are the little things that make a big difference in the long haul. All right. Let's go to some offensive coordinator questions here. We kind of mentioned this one already, and I apologize for that, Lucas Powers. Lucas Powers says, is this a warning to Franklin about his job security? Pretty surprised they let go of a coach mid-season. Plus, Franklin is not athletic director Pat Kraft's guy. Shawn, do you think this came from the top down? I think we already kind of said probably not, but how much pressure do you think Pat Kraft is putting on Franklin right now?
More than Sandy Barber did. But that's not saying much. I don't think Pat Kraft pressured Franklin into this. I think this was James Franklin's decision, but is he feeling the heat? Yeah. Because the fans are as angry as I've seen them. I guess during COVID they were. But I think a lot of people, there was so much going on with COVID at the time. I think a lot of people were willing to give Franklin a pass, but they're just frustrated that they're stuck in purgatory. And again, you can understand that. Like, I understand the Fire Franklin people. In 2016, I didn't understand them. In 2015, I didn't understand them because they were totally oblivious to what was going on. I could understand them now. I don't agree with them, but I get it. And I think everybody has a different breaking point. I haven't reached mine yet. Some of you have. Some of you never believed in James Franklin. But I do, kind of. At least I did. That he could be the guy to take us to where we want to be. But, yeah. I guess to answer the question, yes, he felt the pressure, but I don't think it came from Pat Kraft.
I think him and Pat Kraft are in good standing. There wasn't any condemning, having to go to bat for his guy, athletic director speech that was given or anything like that. So nothing like that. But
Sandy had to do that, actually.
Right, in 2016. We haven't got to that point yet. I think they are very aligned. And again, Pat Kraft going to bat, and I mean, he had to approve of the firing because they were going to have to then spend probably at least another, the buyout, but then probably plus another $2 to $3 million for whoever they bring in. So you're not talking about just a little bit of money here. Okay. Let's go to this one, and then we got one more after it. Lots of fan questions tonight. This one is from AJ Newhouse. Do you personally think finding an offensive coordinator to fit quarterback Drew Aller is the top priority, or is finding an elite offensive coordinator who may or may not work well with Drew Aller is more important, even if that means bringing in a Bo Perbila or another quarterback in to start instead? So do you tailor it towards Drew Aller, Shawn, or do you just go find the best possible guy out there, and if it doesn't fit Drew Aller, then you just figure that out later?
Well, best possible. But I would like to see a pro style offense, or some more pro style concepts. But again, I'm not saying go hire I don't know, Chan Gailey. People probably have no idea who Chan Gailey is. You're lucky. I'm not saying that. But yeah, find the best guy possible. And if it doesn't fit Drew, who's probably, I want to say probably, but good chance he's not here after next year, well, I don't think you have to necessarily handcuff yourself to what could work with Drew. So get the best guy possible and have him fit his system to what Drew could do.
Ethan Grunkmeyer will be an interesting name to watch moving forward. The current Penn State
100%.
quarterback commit, will he kind of stick around? That's just something to keep in mind as far as this offensive coordinator, not just tailoring it towards Drew Aller, but potentially to Ethan Grunkmeyer as well, who continues to kind of just soar up the recruiting boards. I think you just got to go get the best offensive coordinator. Like, you could probably go get a guy who would fit Drew Aller perfectly, but I think you really got to get somebody who has a lot of experience play calling and isn't afraid to own their own identity and call their own shots and say, hey, I'm going to run this thing the way I want it to. I think that's the most important part. But you got to make sure your quarterback's comfortable too. And James Franklin was asked kind of this question already today during the press conference, and he said, like, no, Drew Aller's not going to have a say, but what is going to have a say is his comfortability with the offense. So Drew Aller isn't going to say yes or no to whoever their next offensive coordinator is, but they are going to keep him in mind as far as making sure it works. So that's the most coach answer you can have, but I think it's an important one to at least mention. All right, last question, Shawn. Probably the question everyone's been waiting for on YouTube. Dr. Snyder asks, who is on the short list for offensive coordinator for Penn State? Also, any other offense assistants expected to get fired? I'll answer the first part, Shawn, then I'll give it to you. I don't expect any of the other offensive assistants to get fired. I think got to be pretty happy with Phil Trotwine, especially in his recruiting element. J1 Sider, Shawn made that interesting point last time that none of his running backs have made it to graduation, but you still got to be really happy. Franklin called him one of his more loyal members of his staff. He's been there for 6 years now. Ty Howell just got promoted co-offensive coordinator with J1 Sider. He was also called loyal, and also, again, that collaborative word was used. And then they just hired Marcus Hagans, so I don't think you have to worry about that one. And then right now, Shawn, you can help me out here. The quarterback's coach, if you will still be the assistant who's on the sideline, whose name I can't remember.
Danny O'Brien.
Thank you. Danny O'Brien. He's going to be working at the quarterback still. So I think they're all okay for right now. Danny O'Brien's a name maybe to keep an eye on, because I'd be curious what his future is going to be. It's going to be bright, but I just don't know if it's going to be at Penn State. But otherwise, I don't expect any other offensive assistants to get fired. Shawn, unless you have anything to add, short list for offensive coordinator.
So I went as deep as I could. I didn't go super deep, but I did look. Kirby Moore from Missouri, Kellen Moore's little brother. Really fun offense that they run down there. Coached in the SEC before, coaches in the SEC right now, and had great offenses at Fresno State. Chip Lindsey, North Carolina's offensive coordinator. I wouldn't mind that. He developed Drake May. I think AB mentioned Cliff Kingsbury, but I don't think he comes out here. I think he's going to stay on the West Coast. But I'm not saying you don't make the call. So those are some names. I don't think you Garrett Riley, that's another one. He's at Clemson right now. He was TCU's offensive coordinator. I don't think you make this move, though, to promote J1 Sider or Ty Howell. That's very underwhelming to me. And I like those guys, but I don't think that's the move. I'm good. I'm good with that. And also, do I expect any other offensive to get axed? No. Maybe Haynes, but I don't think it would be justified.
Just add, to be determined as far as maybe J1 Sider, maybe they put up 70 points a game in the next 3 games. Maybe you consider it a little bit more. But I tend to agree. The name that a lot of people are going to, here are the names that a lot of other people are throwing out there. Sean Lewis, Kent State offensive coordinator that was at Colorado, just got demoted for some dumb reason by Deion Sanders. He actually coached Dante Cephas when he's at Kent State. He has ran an offense before. He's called plays before. A little bit more unproven, maybe though, compared to like say a more known name. Joe Moorhead, current head coach at Akron, obviously we talked about him a little bit earlier. The Tyler Bowen, offense coordinator at Virginia Tech, was with Franklin before, went with Pry. Probably, excuse my pun here, probably would be difficult to pry him away. But I don't know if he's done better this year since they made that quarterback change, but I don't know if he also didn't he call the game the Cotton Bowl?
He did.
And he had a pretty good game in the Cotton Bowl.
He also refused to run the ball in the first half, but yes.
Yeah. Josh Gaddis, offense coordinator at Maryland right now. I don't know what you do with Marcus Hagans because he's kind of like a receivers coach. I guess I don't know if he could coach quarterbacks. I don't really know his familiarity there. But if you had Josh Gaddis and Marcus Hagans on your staff, you think you'd be able to, and James Franklin for that matter, you think you'd be able to recruit wide receivers pretty damn well. That's the only thing I would say about that one. I don't even know what the relationship's like right now with Josh Gaddis and James Franklin, but that's another name that's going to pop up a little bit. Are there any other crazy ones out there that I need? I don't think
Brady.
Joe Brady was one. He's the quarterback's coach of the Bills right now. I saw Deshaun Hamilton tweeted out something that maybe get Joe Brady to Penn State. I think Joe Brady personally has benefited from being around a lot of great athletes at Penn State, and then with the 2019 LSU team, he went to Carolina and wasn't there for very long. So I don't know about that one. There's probably others out there, but I haven't had any crazy indication about where they might possibly go yet, Shawn.
Yeah, like personally, I don't want Tyler Bowen. I just don't think he's proven much anything. Yeah, it is like you said from a recruiting perspective, but he hasn't done a whole lot outside of at Michigan. He got ran out of town in Miami, and Maryland is doing Maryland things right now. So, yeah, I mean, I want somebody fresh personally that's never been here before. So. That's just me. But all those guys we named could get the job. And the funny thing with Franklin is they probably won't get the job because usually he picks somebody completely out of the blue. So I'm ready for that too.
Yeah, I was gonna mention Brennan Marion at UNLV. They're 8-2 right now. I think that'd be a little unproven for them, but that's a name I've saw a decent amount right now as well. I wanted to mention that one. I don't know if there's any other ones that I wanted to double check.
Colin Klein out at Kansas State as well. He's a guy that Franklin knows personally. I could see that. But I don't know if he's going to want to go after a Big 12 coach again.
And then the only other one I could think of is Mike Shanahan with James Madison.
Yeah, I've seen his name.
Shanahan.
Not that Mike Shanahan.
No, different Shanahan. He followed the current coach of James Madison from Elon to James Madison. So if you want like that Joe Moorhead, like who is this guy hire? Like that's the who is this guy hire, in my opinion. That makes you kind of go, what? And then yeah, someone mentioned Oregon's offensive coordinator. Maybe. I don't know. I don't know much.
I don't know how we go get him. Same thing with Utah's Andy Ludwig. Like,
yeah, I
just don't know how we go and pry those guys.
Would you want him?
He would need a mobile quarterback. They have a very like specific style that I think could work in the Big Ten. I wouldn't hate it.
But what Utah offense were you like? Wow, like I'm just so impressed by that Utah offense.
One a couple of years ago was pretty good, but yeah, they don't get the same athletes we get.
That's true. All right, enough of that because I'm curious. So Shawn, I guess how quickly do you think this happens? Because to me, I think like, do they wait to the end of the year?
Yeah, I think so.
I guess I'm curious.
Like early December. You'll have your admin calendars out, and there'll be a offensive coordinator.
Yeah, but it's kind of a weird year this year because technically, like the season's over. What on the 24th from before bowl games. So you have a whole pretty much almost a full week before December hits.
When is that big coaches convention that Franklin loves to get guys at?
The AFCA.
Yeah,
I don't know. Give me a second. I'll
because
look
it
it
might
up.
be that. I know he's gotten coaches there before.
That's not until January. January 7th, January to January 10th.
He'll have someone before then.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't think it's going to take that long. I think they want to make sure Gruckemeyer stays committed. And the whole offense in general. Do you see Jalen Harvey randomly tweeted, I'm still keeping my decision open, but I'm 100% committed. Like, dude, you play on defense.
I did not see that. Didn't
Jalen Harvey.
didn't he get hurt?
Yeah, he did. I think he's okay though.
Okay. I saw George. I think it was Georgia offered Tiki Hayes. By the way, 2025.
Well, that's where they go when they offer them. Except tonight at a Sun.
Okay, let's just go film room because I think we're just ready to go film room. That's okay with you.
That's good with me.
So it's kind of like a different show this week than it has been before.
We're innovative.
Oh, it was Horns. Thank you, Lee, for the clarification.
Yes, apologies.
How dare you? All right.
That's why it's good to have live YouTube chats.
It is. It is. Uh-oh. Could be bad. Hold on a second.
Right.
Might not have. Go ahead.
Yeah. Another mea culpa from me. I said Roman Wilson could be a big key in this game. He had 0 catches. I don't think he was targeted once. So just want to put that out there.
Yeah. Do you see the funny tweet that somebody had that was like, KLS showed that he was better than Roman Wilson? Yeah.
I mean, probably not that big of a difference. Franklin tweeted something. It says, hardship is a blessing when it spurs effort and development. Ease is a curse when it increases complacency and self-indulgence.
What's that mean?
I don't know. Like, is it just a play on tough times don't last, tough people do?
I think so. Might have an issue.
All right, we could roll with it.
I don't know what I did with the film. I have somehow misplaced the film.
That's all right.
Oh, wait a second. I found it.
There you go.
I'm a donut. All right. Apologies for the delay there. I have to make sure I cut that out of the podcast for those listening. But I did find it. Let's go. Let's go with this one. All right. So, 1st and 10 second drive of the game for Penn State. Knocking on the doorstep in the red zone. And they're going to run from the full house set here. Love it. Feel like I don't know if they really ran from this set very often against Ohio State. They actually decided to run. They would always bump those tight ends down right away. They actually went to do it. Shawn, can you move your camera down a little bit? Or I lost your head for a second. There you go. There you go. Too far, but that's okay. That's fine, I guess. All right. All right, so 1st and 10 in the red zone. They're going to just run the rock here on first down. And what if I told you that Nick Singleton had 2 holes here that he could have probably scored a touchdown off of? I don't have the all 22 angle, but there's actually a hole right in between JB Nelson and Hunter Norzad. But I actually like the hole here on the right that he looks and appears to be running towards. I'm like, oh, why didn't we score a touchdown on this play? Great blocking by everybody. Dante Cephas, all he'd have to do is just kind of barely block Will Johnson, and it's a touchdown. And he just turns it inside. And, he picks up a first down. But, of course, Penn State actually doesn't score a touchdown on this drive. They end up having to kick a field goal. And instead of being up 7-0, you're only up 3-0. But for the life of me, Shawn, I cannot figure out how this one was not housed for a touchdown. I mean, this is a touchdown. This is as easy as it can be a touchdown. And right there, I mean, you could maybe argue Will Johnson, but Will Johnson's not going to have the angle, and he's running the wrong direction. This is a walk-in touchdown for Nick Singleton, who's already at full speed. And he just cuts it inside. And that is the difference between 3 points and 4 points, ladies and gentlemen.
Yeah. It's been one of those years for Nick Singleton, and it's tough to see. Like Cory said, this is blocked beautifully, and he runs into style warmly. I mean, I don't know what he's seeing. And he definitely has vision issues that he didn't have last year. And I don't get it. I just don't know what happened to Nick Singleton. He's another guy that needs some swagger.
Yeah, that one was troubling, to say the least. I want to show you a good example to make people feel a little bit better. So this is a run 1st and 10, and Penn State's going to run the rock here to the left side. They actually pool 2 offensive linemen, and everyone gets the hat on a hat here, and it's a great play. I want to show a couple things here, though. Number 1, some passing success. Look where the safety is. He's at the 40-yard line. He's 15 yards off the ball. We mentioned this during the Maryland film. When you throw the ball somewhat successfully, those safeties actually do indeed back off a little bit. And now, Katron Allen makes that guy miss. Where does he make him miss at? Instead of making him miss in a hole, now he's making him miss again right around the first down marker. And he's actually able to do some things once he's in space. So that's the difference. When you throw the ball some, you can have some success. But also, I wanted to show, look at Keandre Lambert-Smith, everybody, getting right there and springing that for a big gain. That was not happening sometimes this year. Look how he sells it, and then he just falls right for the trap, and Keandre Lambert-Smith gets in the way. It seems subtle, but that was the difference, literally, from this being, let's call it a 4-yard gain, and what does it end up being, a 25-yard gain, 30-yard gain? So that's just a subtle difference. Good blocking by all of the offensive line. Don't want to discredit them, but the subtle differences between big run and just a decent gain.
Yeah, great run, great blocking. I did have to chuckle, though. It is emblematic of our lack of explosiveness that this big defensive tackle is the one that chases Shawn Allen down from behind. It's like, even when it goes well, we still can't win.
Yeah. And 78 is a man amongst boys. Like, he
Yeah,
did
he's
some
not that.
really good things.
Yeah, he's a good player. I think he's one of the guys on Feldman's freak list. I mean, and that's a great job by him.
Yeah,
Just
he does
because
that doesn't give up.
no, I mean that's what you want. That's effort. That's a championship play for Michigan, and it's a great play by us.
Yeah, that's a good point all the way around there. Okay, this is Drew Aller's touchdown run right before the half. They're actually have Trey Potts come down in the flat there. I think that was a nice little wrinkle. Again, though, they were able to throw the ball some. And look at what you were able to do. Even in the red zone, Michigan's playing two high safety. Basically, man two underneath, I believe. And it's nice if you can throw it over the middle, but you also can run it over the middle when you have two high safeties. And that's exactly what Penn State did, and did it pretty easily. Also, it's just nice to see Drew Aller have success in a running game, because I think he's going to have to do this from time to time. And he's shown the ability to do that. But look at the big guys getting down there and blocking. Great job by them. Katron Allen, great block there. I also wanted to show, I believe that's Sal Wormley on the right guard here. Just takes his guy to the ground, just completely manhandles him, pancake, puts him on his back. Guy wants a holding call, but he just got his butt whooped. All in all, great play and great blocking downfield. So I just was really happy with this play.
Yeah, and this is what we were talking about a little bit before. Drew could do that. He's, don't ask him to do too much with his legs, but he could do that. So great job by him. And like you said, the whole middle of the field's open, partly because we haven't used it much, but actually a nice job by Mike Yurcich. May he rest in peace.
Yeah. And again, this is why when I saw this play on film, I didn't realize it was this good of a play. First of all, JB Nelson gets beat like a drum. But to me, like, this was a great play by Drew Aller. I don't know if he even makes this play 2 months ago. It's just conviction in what he's trying to do here. Try to look to throw it. Saw that guy stayed with Nick Singleton, and he decided, nope, I'm just going. Or is that Nick Singleton out there? Yeah. I'm just going to take it myself. And it wasn't just a little gain either. This is a game-changing play from being a 8-yard sack into a first down. Like, those are the plays you need to make. Penn State didn't make enough of them, but those are the plays you need to make.
Yeah, this is a nice job by Drew. First off, good pocket awareness. He's able to just that simple little step around. And then, again, whole field's open, takes off, doesn't take a hit, slides, and picks up some yards. So, yeah, like you said, though, we need more of these, and we didn't get them, but this was a nice play by us.
I just wanted your thoughts on this real quick. You think Khalil Dinkins is tackled right here? I think I actually have the whole thing flipped already.
They kind of run into each other.
You think so?
Like, you could argue Dinkins tackled that guy.
I don't know what they're exactly trying to do here.
I think it's a mediocre attempt at a mesh.
I think they're trying to rub route.
Yeah.
But I think they're trying to get Dinkins open.
Mm-hmm. Well, Dinkins is your go-to guy there.
Right. And so, but this guy...
And he would have been open too if he beat that guy.
Right. And this guy is on him and grabbing him from the get-go.
That's true.
And it looks like that guy... So this guy looks like he actually trips on his teammate.
Mm-hmm.
And as he's going down, he holds Dinkins and brings him down with him. That's what it looks like to me.
Run it again. Yeah, it looks like he does engage first. I think you're right. Cory wins that one.
And I mean, so he should be open right now. Now, I guess the pressure probably would have been there anyway, but.
Yeah, this is one that the offensive line looks like Katron didn't block well, and some other guys. That looked like how I would look at chipping JTT.
No, I don't think you would do that good of a job.
I think I would.
Yeah, they just kind of beat him on a stunt there a little bit. Anyway, I was just curious what your thoughts were because I'm going to post the film room tomorrow night, and I just wanted to see if I have approval to say that or not.
Yeah, like I said, I understood the no call though because it was a pretty physical play, and the guy does get tripped by his own guy, so I understood the no call.
You want to get frustrated one time before we call film room good?
This is yeah.
So this one, 3rd and 10, Penn State's going to try to blitz, and Michigan did this a couple times. They're like, we're just going to run, or we're going to do a short play, and we're just going to beat you. And this is kind of what Indiana did sometimes, and did it pretty effectively. I was looking at this, and really, the only person that really gets beat awfully here, it's a great scheme by Michigan, but Johnny Dixon gets absolutely driven out of this play like no other. Watch this receiver lock onto him. I mean, that can't happen. Like, you can't let some scrub wide receiver drag you, start at the 40-yard line, and block you 10 yards down the field. Like, I don't know if he's able to make this play anyway. They had a lot of numbers over there. But if he swims that right now, Cam Miller does push this back inside. Like, Cam Miller does what he's supposed to do. He takes 52 and he pushes this inside. Someone has got to be there on the inside filling this lane. I'm guessing it probably should have been Dixon and or Reed. I don't really expect Wheatley to get all the way over there in time. Oops. See if I can get that to show back up.
And it's a rare time, right, that Dixon gets out physical because he's a physical corner. So that's what I think he's known for. But this was just a bad play by him.
Yeah, like I said, look where Wheatley is. And Reed has to trust the motion to a certain degree. But you also got to say, too, like, Reed, that's not your guy. So Reed shouldn't have actually been going that direction at all. You have Hardy going with them. Everyone else should just stay home. Even Abdul Carter doesn't really stay home. He kind of freezes for a second or two as well. Chop gets double teamed. Deny doesn't win by any stretch. Like, he could have blown this up. But I mean, he doesn't. I don't blame him for that. Someone else needs to fill.
Yeah. And like when you have an ultra aggressive defense like this is going to happen because somebody's going to make a mistake and it affects everything else. I heard somebody say, might have been Jason Kabinda on here, when one guy makes a mistake, it's worse than like all 11 guys making a mistake.
Right.
And I never really thought of it that way, but I think here is a pretty decent illustration of that. Especially in an aggressive defense like we run. And,
right.
You just, probably my only Manny Diaz criticism of the year, you would just think that they would be ready for that. And they weren't. Because we had gotten killed on that multiple times this year.
All right, John, I'm going to ask you to move your camera back up a little bit. I apologize. There you go. Perfect right there. All right. To be honest with you, Shawn, I have not broken down all the film yet, so I still have some notes that I'll probably have for the Wednesday show. Is there anything else you want to talk about before we get out of here? I feel like we covered a lot tonight with the fan question. That's kind of why I wanted to start with those.
Well, I mean, in summary, it was just very disappointing, guys, and we failed this year to meet our goals, and that's never fun. Not every failure has to be 3-9, and some of you might disagree with me, and that's okay. But when you have the schedule we have, it's very unlikely you're gonna, and with the team we have, and I still think this is a very good team, it's very unlikely that you're gonna lose more than 2 games. Now we have to hope that happens against Rutgers because Rutgers is a pretty damn good team, at least defense. So yeah, and it's just, it sucks that we failed to meet our goal. And last year had more of a positive feel to it because we had so many freshmen contributing. And you just felt so optimistic about the future. And I hope, we win our bowl game and everything, and that would be nice. But I don't think you're going to feel the same way in the offseason going into next year. And that kind of sucks.
It's going to be an off season full of questions. And
Yep.
as much as you guys think it's true, I'm not really actually looking forward to it. It means you guys are going to be asking us a lot, but it would be nice to have some answers for you. And I don't know how much we're going to have. But I think there'll be some new optimism brought in by the offensive coordinator. But you're right, Shawn. Like, they failed. And we don't know what holds after this, right? The playoff is going to expand. The Big Ten is expanding. The Big Ten East is gone. So there's some good things for Penn State as far as hopefully being in a good position to make the playoff. Hopefully going to be in a good position to play for Big Ten titles, because you don't play Michigan until 2027 now. But you had a really good chance. You had a really good chance with when you played Ohio State, and you had Michigan, who we think was a better team, but we have them at home, and really had a lot of chances just in the fourth quarter alone of both games to win them. And I don't want to necessarily say it this way, but lack of a better words, you're wasting this defense. And it's one of the best defenses. Shawn and I did some hits with Mercury at the Mercury State Media House on Friday. We talked about ranking our defenses, and we think this is one of the best defenses we've ever seen with our eyes. And yeah, 10-2 is not a failure from the world of college football record wise, but with that defense, you're hoping to do more. And stinks. But I thought I was going to say something else to that effect. But they had their chances, and you really thought the schedule played out nicely for them. And I think that's the most frustrating part. I really think that's also why Mike Yurcich at the end of the day got fired, Shawn, based off of just that Ohio State game alone. You had a month to prepare for Ohio State, let alone maybe a year, and that's what you came up with.
I know. And there's a lot of belief in that locker room. Right after the Rose Bowl, they were saying, goals win the national championship next year. Players are saying that. And that's not every year that they're saying that at the bowl game press conference, but it was something that I believe they could do. They needed things to go their way. They needed the receivers to be better than they were. They were not. They needed Drew to be better than he was. He was not. Defense is a championship level defense. If you pair this defense with, an explosive, it'd be cool to see this defense with USC's offense. You're not doing anything on them. And they're going to score a ton of points there with Washington. But that's not the world we live in. So I think it's just a bummer. And there, like Cory said, a lot of questions. And the questions are going to be of a different tone going into this season. It'll be a lot like the questions we were fielding going into the 2021 season. Now, program at a different spot, but you still feel like there's a lot of pressure on James Franklin. We're just at a different spot now than we were.
Yeah, and we'll have plenty of time to discuss that in a couple months here. Lee says he has not missed a game since 1993, and he hasn't felt this bad after any other loss. Just an average offense would have won those two games. I mean, it's cruel, Shawn. If they have just Sean Clifford quarterback play in those two games, maybe they have more turnovers, but Drew Aller fumbled against Michigan. You could argue they win those games. If Drew Aller plays like he played in the Rose Bowl, they probably blow out Ohio State, and they probably play pretty damn well against Michigan too.
Yeah, I think so. And I wasn't a giant Clifford guy, but he wins at least one of them. And I'll tell you that, he at least splits them.
Yeah, finds a way.
We had 8 chances being down 8 points. And
is that how many it was?
Yeah, it was right there. And God, Michigan, they stopped throwing the ball.
They ran it up the middle punt, and just said they're not going to beat us.
Yeah, they were the Army offense with no options. It was, yeah, it's going to take a while to get over this one, to get over the season. Just sucks.
Well, Penn State plays Rutgers on Saturday. Noon kick, which Penn State got killed by the noon kicks this year.
I hate it.
Also, we didn't even mention this. Commercials were awful. There was a 4-minute, 50-second commercial break at one point.
I kept yelling, "Thanks, Fox!" every TV commercial, because it was constant, and God knows there were a lot of 3-and-outs at both sides, so we were constantly in commercial. And I think if it wasn't for all of them, the game would have been over in about 2 hours because they were all runs.
Yeah, it was a short game from game time perspective. They had a timeout when the crowd got loud, and then they went to a commercial break. And I've never seen that before. Usually you don't do that because it ruins kind of the flow of the game. They didn't care. They did it after turnovers. They didn't care.
Almighty Buck.
Yep. So that was frustrating too. Anywho, we'll be back Wednesday to talk more Michigan. Film room will be up tomorrow on Twitter at HardcorePSUFB. And then we'll refocus to Rutgers. Corey Geiger will be joining the show on around 8:15 or so Eastern. And we'll go from there into Rutgers. So, Shawn, anything else?
No. I will say Mercury House was cool. Corey, and that's going to be up sometime this week. Corey and I did, as Corey says, some hits. So check out State Media PSU YouTube page for that. Yeah,
that was fun. It was easy. It was a good night on Friday night as well. So thank you, Mercury, for hosting that.
Yep.
Thank you guys for watching. I think this was one of our best shows ever as far as watching live. So we appreciate it. Make sure you've liked the video and you've subscribed if not already. And make sure you're subscribed on podcasts if you listen that way. So for Shawn Kane, I'm Corey Lestochi. You've been listening to Hardcore Penn State Football.